It's all about the pipeline. It's all about the Druzhba pipeline, the pipeline of friendship, which is a very ironic title, a very ironic name for the pipeline considering the relations between Hungary and Ukraine. There's an upcoming election in Hungary, which means that Viktor Orban is very nervous because he is trailing behind the opposition about 20 percentage points, which frankly means that Orban is losing. There is a high probability that come next election, Viktor Orban will be out of power and another administration for the first time in over 10 years will take his place. And Viktor Orban is not very happy about this development. He's not happy at all. He hopes to cling to power forever. He hopes to be a forever ruler, which is why he has created a campaign of fear, a campaign of terror, basically. His whole campaigning revolves around two pillars. There are two pillars to his campaign strategy right now, by which he hopes to secure a victory in Hungary. And that is the anti European Union pillar and anti Ukraine pillar. And both of those pillars support the structure of his anti war rhetoric. According to Viktor Orban, both the European Union as well as Ukraine are trying to drag Hungary into war. Do not question that logic. Do not question the fact that Europe is not willing to commit any troops to Ukraine. Do not question the fact that Europe has been very lackluster when it comes to the support of Ukraine. According to Viktor Orban, if European Union will have its way, Hungarian people will be conscripted and sent to the front line of Ukraine. And Orban is the only person standing in the way of doing that. Hello, Lobtob from Twitch chat. And it's so far this campaign does not seem to be working because, as I've said, Viktor Orban is still trailing behind in the polls. It still seems that he will lose this upcoming election, although we will have to see if he will not try to rig it. But this only resulted in him escalating the rhetoric, especially when it comes to anti-Ukraine rhetoric. And part of that is Hungary's playing up the Hungary's dependence on Russian oil, on Russian energy. A big part of it is playing up the dependency of Hungary on Russian energy and oil flowing through the Druzhba pipeline, the friendship pipeline, the so-called friendship pipeline. And very recently, Viktor Orban has accused Ukraine of sabotaging the friendship pipeline, the Druzhba pipeline, in order to cut Hungary off from Russian oil, in order to drive energy prices up, in order to make Hungarian people unhappy, in order to undermine the Hungarian elections. Yes, that's right. Viktor Orban has accused Ukraine of intentionally sabotaging the flow of Russian oil to Hungary in order to disrupt his elections, because the only thing on Ukraine's mind right now is the elections within Hungary. Also, Viktor Orban has additionally accused Ukraine of propping up the opposition party. Apparently, the opposition party is in cahoots with the European Union, both, and Ukraine. In reality, though, all evidence right now points to Russia actually being the party that damaged because the Druzhba pipeline has been damaged, the flow of oil has been halted, but it is said that is true. According to Ukraine, it is a Russian drone that has damaged the pipeline and caused the flow of oil to be stopped. All right? And ever since then, this oil provides oil not only to Hungary but also to the Czech Republic as well as Slovakia. But the Czech Republic has very effectively phased out Russian oil, so has no problems with the Druzhba pipeline not functioning. But Slovakia and Hungary both have a big problem with that. Both of them demand the flow of oil to be continued, and both of them engage in various different types of blackmail in order to make that happen. Hungary has blocked sanctions against Russia, the 20th package of sanctions, as well as threatened to block the 90 billion loan to Ukraine, the crucial loan that Ukraine needs to be able to continue its defense against Russia. Slovakia, on its part, has said that if the flow of oil is not resumed, it will stop providing emergency electricity to Ukraine, which Slovakia is a pretty big provider of electricity to Ukraine. And you know that Ukraine is in dire need of electricity because Russia has extensively targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure. So Ukraine's energy infrastructure is in large part damaged or destroyed, which is why Ukraine is suffering daily blackouts for several hours per day. So this is where we are. The Druzhba pipeline has been damaged. The flow of oil has been stopped. Slovakia and Hungary has expressed great anger over this issue and has started blackmailing Ukraine and used it for its rhetoric about how Ukraine wants to drag Hungary into war, which is why very recently Viktor Orban has moved troops to secure, or rather to defend, Hungarian critical infrastructure, critical energy infrastructure, because Viktor Orban has accused Ukraine of possibly trying to attack Hungary and its energy infrastructure, right? Now, Slovakia is the provider of energy, of electricity for Ukraine. Okay. So that has been the situation. It has been a very tense situation. Hungary has actually called for an inspection of the Druzhba pipeline. Okay, Hungary has called for an inspection of the Druzhba pipeline, saying we will see if it's truly damaged. Our satellite info says that the Druzhba pipeline is actually in perfectly workable condition and that the flow of oil can be resumed. On its part, Ukraine has actually offered an alternative to Russian oil, a very viable alternative, and both Hungary and Slovakia has rejected that alternative, saying that it would be more expensive than the Russian oil, and that alternative is Croatian Adria pipeline. Croatia has stepped forward and said, we are able to meet your needs. We have the pipeline that can provide you with an alternative to Russian oil. But both Slovakia as well as Hungary have refused to accept that deal. And in fact, ever since as much as the entirety of Europe have been trying to phase out the dependency on Russian energy ever since the full-scale invasion has started in 2022, Hungary and Slovakia have only increased their dependence on Russian energy, which should tell you everything that you need to know about the priorities of these countries and the loyalties of these countries and their governments, especially their governments. So alternatives have been proposed. Those alternatives have been firmly rejected, and Hungary has been demanding the restart of flow of the oil from Russia to its country. Zelensky is reluctant, of course, to repair the pipeline and to resume the flow because any flow of energy, any selling of oil to any country means that Russia is gaining more funds to wage its war against Ukraine. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said Thursday that he would prefer not to repair a damaged oil pipeline that delivers Russian crude to Central Europe, despite rising tensions with neighboring Hungary and Slovakia over interruptions to oil flows. Russian oil shipments to Hungary and Slovakia have been halted since January 27th. That is when the Russian drone damaged the pipeline. What Ukrainian officials say were Russian drone attacks that damaged the Druzhba pipeline, which crosses Ukrainian territory. The populist leaders of Hungary and Slovakia, which unlike most European Union countries continue to import Russian fossil fuels, have accused Ukraine of deliberately holding up supplies. Kiev says that continuous Russian strikes mean that carrying out repairs put technicians in danger, and that even if repaired, Druzhba would remain vulnerable to further attacks, which is true. And those alternatives, of course, proposed by Ukraine would not be as vulnerable to those attacks. That is something that is also worth mentioning. That is also something that is worth noting. In a news conference on Thursday, Zelensky expressed his reluctance to repair the pipeline despite Hungarian and Slovak demands. To be honest, I wouldn't restore it. This is my position. So that has happened. And then, in a very recent and very sudden turn of events, the leaders started threatening each other. The escalation has reached a point of threats. So, this is Viktor Orban talking about the issue. This whole thing has been brewing for a long time and has really taken a turn lately. So this is Viktor Orban. I will put on my headphones for this. We will win. We will win. Because all of it is, of course, in the context of the election. And we will win by force. We have political and financial tools. And with these, we will compel them. And by this, he means, for example, blocking the loan to Ukraine, the 90 billion loan. Unconditionally and preferably as soon as possible. To reopen the friendship oil pipeline. I want to make it clear that we will win here. So I will make no pact. There will be no compromise. We will defeat them because, as Viktor Orban has stated from the very beginning of the invasion, as he has stated from the very beginning of the war, Zelensky is Viktor Orban's enemy. Zelensky has declared, Viktor Orban has declared Zelensky to be Viktor Orban's enemy, which created further tensions between Poland and Hungary, but that's neither here nor there. That's completely unrelated to the topic at hand. We will break the oil blockade because the damage to the Druzhba pipeline, the damage to the oil flow from Russia to Hungary is being framed as, of course, a deliberate oil blockade against Hungary with the purpose of undermining Orban's campaign. We will force the Ukrainians to restart the deliveries. Not through business, not through agreement, not through compromise, but by force. There you go. So that was a threat by Viktor Orban, very clear, very direct. And there's a reason why Orban chooses this sort of language. There's a reason why Viktor Orban says, we will not compromise, we will do it by force, we are strong, and by that he means I am strong. He basically says the European Union and especially Ukraine is trying to make the lives of Hungarian people miserable. Zelensky is blocking oil from you. Zelensky is doing an energy blockade against Hungary, and he's trying to drive up the prices. He's trying to make the lives of ordinary Hungarians unbearable. He's trying to drag Hungary into war. He's trying to send ordinary Hungarians as meat shields to the front line. All these things, and only a strong leader like Viktor Orban can defend Hungary from such a fate. That is exactly why he is using the language of force here. We will win. We will defeat them, and only I can be the one that delivers such a victory, which is why you have to vote for me in the upcoming election. That is all very elaborate. It's an elaborate scheme by Viktor Orban to come back from this very dangerous situation that he has found himself in. He is on the brink. He is desperate. He is very desperate to stay in power. And because he is very desperate, he uses desperate measures. But it seems that Zelensky has actually not been quiet about this, okay, and has threatened Viktor Orban himself. Let me see. Let me find this, okay? This is it. This is the statement that is framed as a threat against Viktor Orban directly.
Ви знаєте, що у нас повинна бути передплата.
Are there subtitles to this?
Ви знаєте, що у нас повинна бути від.
Okay, I don't. This. I need a version with subtitles. There you go. We have the version with subtitles here. This is the direct answer to the "we will defeat them, we will win by force," etc., etc.
Ви знаєте, що у нас повинна бути передплата від
That a prepayment from the Ukrainian side is
вже
needed
української сторони
regarding future aviation,
щодо майбутньої авіації, щодо
regarding Gripens and Rafales.
Гріпенів і Рафалів. Ми ще вчора
Mikhail and I talked about this yesterday. Let's hope that one person in
надіємо, що одна особа в Євросоюзі
the European Union will
90
block 90 billion
мільярдів або перший транш
for the first tranche of 90 billion.
90 мільярдів і українських
And
воїнів
Ukrainian soldiers will
а
have
буде
weapons.
зброю.
Otherwise,
Інакше дамо адресу цієї
we will give this person
особи нашим
address to our armed forces,
Збройним силам, хлопцям
to our guys.
нашим. Нехай вони
Let them call him
йому дзвонять і з ним спілкуються
and communicate with him
своєю мовою.
in their own language. So in other words, I don't know. You can talk to our army. You can talk to Viktor Orban. If you're talking about defeating us, then we are welcome to speak your language, so to speak. So as you can see, things have escalated quite drastically between Ukraine and Hungary. I think honestly that this kind of language is a mistake from Zelensky. I think that this is the part where the European Union might actually not like hearing such things from Zelensky. Even though the European Union has been extremely soft on Hungary, in my opinion, it has also backed Hungary in the demand for an investigation of the Druzhba pipeline, because the European Union has been really soft when it comes to these things. And part of the reason why Slovakia and Hungary have rejected the alternative from Croatia is prices, because it's all about money. The Croatian oil is apparently, according to Slovakia and Hungary, more expensive than the Russian one. And if the European Union was serious about phasing out energy, about supporting Ukraine, then I feel like they would have immediately disarmed this argument. That the European Union would have said, okay, you know what? If Croatia really is so expensive, then for the foreseeable future, we will cover the difference. We will cover the difference, and you no longer have any arguments for not embracing this alternative. That is one simple solution of disarming Orban's argument as to why he cannot embrace Croatian oil instead of Russian oil. But the European Union is not willing to do such a thing. And now things have deteriorated, things have escalated really badly, and some people even claim that this whole thing actually does play into Orban's hand, that it might actually give him the necessary boost to stay in power, which would be a disaster not just for Ukraine, because the alternative will actually not be so great for Ukraine either. If the opposition wins, the policy towards Ukraine will not change significantly. But it would be a tragedy for the European Union, because the Hungarian leader, Viktor Orban, is extremely anti-European Union. He single-handedly almost destroys the unity of the European Union, which is a shame. Even though Viktor Orban is a product of the European Union. But again, that is a topic for another day. The European Union very much enabled Orban in his current form, enabled the rise of Orban as he is now. So a lot of the problems that the European Union is finding itself now with Viktor Orban is of its own making at the end of the day. I feel like it is the job of European Union to try to halt Viktor Orban's pro-Russian ambitions and to stop his threatening language, to put brakes on Viktor Orban's rhetoric and not just allow him to block the 90 billion loan to Ukraine. But I also feel like Ukraine and Zelensky should show more restraint when it responds to such threats. I feel like there should not be even an implication that Ukraine is saying that if you block the loan, we will send the armed forces after you. It should not be able to be even interpreted in such a way. So I feel like this threat by Zelensky is a mistake, honestly. Even if I perfectly understand his position, I perfectly understand why he would be frustrated with Hungary. I perfectly understand why, because this tension has been um, ongoing for a long time. This is not just about the Druzhba pipeline. This definitely, make no mistake about it. It's not just about Druzhba pipeline. It's not just about the oil flow. It's about Hungary's overall attitude towards Ukraine and the European Union. It's about the fact that Viktor Orban has been pro Russian from the very beginning of this war. It's about the fact that Hungary has blocked any and all military support for Ukraine, has not delivered any military support for Ukraine. It is about the fact that Hungary has time and time again been blocking sanctions against Russia. Hungary has taken a very, very pro Russian stance throughout this war and has only increased its dependence on Russian energy, which has been fueling the energy, has been the main source of financing of Russian aggression against Ukraine. So I can definitely understand Zelensky's frustration there, but I do not think that implying that the just saying that the Ukrainian forces will get Orban's address and fix this issue is the right way to go. I just don't I just don't think that is the case. The situation is ongoing. We will see where these threats will lead to. Right now, Slovakia and Hungary have opened up their oil reserves and are continuing to pressure Ukraine, as you can see, to restore the flow from Russia and have rejected the viable alternatives. We will see how this will develop. I feel like it is very clear that Slovakia and Hungary should be disciplined in some way. They are clearly breaking away from the union part of the European Union. There is no unity, there is no solidarity, and I feel like this is clearly a situation where the European Union should step in to de escalate the situation and support Ukraine against its own ally. Those are my thoughts on the situation. The European Union should definitely not support Orban in his quest to restore Russian flow to Slovakia and Hungary, and it should rather encourage Hungary to embrace the alternatives and to move away from its rhetoric of beating Ukraine, of doing it by force and no compromise. But of course, Orban will not agree to that because, as I said at the beginning of this whole thing is also this whole thing exists within the context of the upcoming elections, and Viktor Orban needs to be aggressive towards Ukraine. He needs to create the narrative of Hungary being under siege. He needs that if he has any hopes of winning. And even with all that, his actual chances of winning seem very slim, which is why he again reaches for more and more desperate methods. He reaches for more and more desperate measures in order to secure his victory. We will see. We will see what will come of these threats. We will see if the situation will escalate any further, and we will also see if the course that Viktor Orban has taken will find any translation to the voting booth in the voting booth. If anybody will change their mind and decide, oh no, we are under threat, Actually, the European Union and Ukraine want to send me to the front line, so I better buckle up and vote for Orban. We will see if that will happen. I personally doubt that, but the fact remains that for his own, like, if I want to leave you with a thought that is very disturbing, it is this: for the sake of staying in power, Viktor Orban is willing to destabilize the entire region. Viktor Orban is willing to highly escalate the situation between Hungary and Ukraine, which ironically enough puts Hungary in danger, which is the exact opposite of what Viktor Orban preaches to be about, and is empowering the biggest geopolitical enemy of Europe in the region, Russia. All for the sake of this crusty, old, just has been to stay in power, no matter what the cost. At the cost of Europe, at the cost of Ukraine, and it is very important to say, at the cost of the Hungarian people.